the young people that I've been communicating with around the world are dying to hear a proper story about identity. And if you say to them, look, take on some responsibility, have some entrepreneurial daring, establish a long-term relationship, get married, have children, engage civically, right? Grow up and become part of your family, your community, your state, your province, your country, and dedicate yourself to a high-level religious view of the world, then you have an identity. You're embedded in multiple layers, and that actually constitutes psychological stability and purpose. And the Conservatives have done a very bad job of delineating that vision for young people. But if you do, they're extraordinarily receptive.
I think you're very right. And I think part of the challenge was that we've had so much social change over the last 20 years. And the conception of what it meant to have that strong, stable relationship was very binary. It was one man, one woman. I think now that we've broadened out the understanding that everybody needs a life mate, and it doesn't matter whether that's someone of the same gender or the opposite gender, having a life mate is what is important. And now we've also broadened out so that those who've married in even same-sex relationships also are developing families as well. And I think that that has made the Conservative movement far more inclusive than it might have been historically.
You said the Conservatives generally present themselves as really fiscally in some sense, right? We're going to make government efficient. We're going to cut back taxes. We're going to let you do your own thing. And that's a negative vision. And I don't mean negative emotionally. I mean, we're here to pare things back. And that's not an expansive vision, let's say, of care in some sense. And I understand why that is. But you talked about some of the ideas you had. We briefly talked about them on the social front. So maybe I could get you to elaborate a bit on that.
I'll tell you, because I see Alberta, we've gone from, in the 1970s, having 1.5 million population to 4.5 million today. We are continuing to attract people from around the province and around the globe who I want to create Alberta as a little bastion of freedom and free enterprise amid a bit of a sea of chaos that we're seeing in North America right now. And I think that message is causing people to look here and want to come here. And so if we're going to continue growing our population, and I think we'll double if we continue this attraction by 2050. So if we're going to double our population, it means we're going to need more teachers and more nurses and more social workers and more doctors and more roads built and more schools built and more hospitals built. So talking about cutting in that framework doesn't really make much sense. What also doesn't make much sense, I don't think, is that this is what Conservatives do, is that we spend a lot of time creating an excellent business environment to attract investment and grow the amount of revenue, which is fantastic. That's one of the things that I think people can reliably count on Conservatives to do. But then what we do is we take that big pot of money and we hand it to the central planners and say, go deliver stuff. We hire the exact same people that the socialists hire. And somehow we just think, oh, well, we'll hire better central planners, without realizing that central planning is the fundamental flaw in how we're delivering our programs. And Conservatives fall victim to this all the time, is that we think, oh, well, if we just eliminate that layer of government and centralize, we'll eliminate administration and we'll end up delivering better services. And it never, ever happens. Because the more you centralize, the more you're creating layers of managers who are disconnected from delivering those services. So you end up with a very costly system that gets worse and worse results. So what I have been, I started on the free enterprise side, as I mentioned, with my internship at the Fraser Institute. So I've always been thinking, how do we apply our free enterprise values to the delivery of public programs? And if we were to apply our free enterprise values, then we would say it all begins with the individual, giving individual choice, empowering them with dollars so that they can then go and purchase the things that they need to purchase. You would have competition. You would have not only public sector providers, but nonprofit providers and charitable providers and for-profit providers all competing with each other to deliver the best service at the lowest cost. You would also make sure that we have this bizarre situation where we give all this money to a central planner, they use it to deliver services themselves, and then they evaluate their own performance and say, we're doing such a bang-up job, give us more money, and we always do. Those are not roles that in any enterprise are concentrated in one entity. You have to have a different purchaser and a different provider, and then somebody else evaluating the performance to see how you're doing. And this is the way that you apply conservative principles to how you deliver healthcare, how you deliver seniors care, how you deliver advanced education, how you deliver K-12 education. And that's the project that I want to engage and get started on. Conservatives normally shy away from these types of issues, and we normally don't put forward a vision of how we want to do it differently. And what I observe with the left, and the left does this very well, is that they will do polling on a particular issue and find that there's very little support for it. So then they go out and they advocate and they get their fellow travelers and they write columns and then they poll again. And now the support is a little bit higher. And they keep on inching up the level of support until they've got 50% plus one saying yes, and then they act on it. Whereas conservatives do the opposite. We say, oh, we've got this idea. Let's go out and poll on it. Oh, people don't like it. Well, let's put that back on the shelf. That is not what our job is if we want to win the ideas war.